Hello boys and girls, this is Miss Gabby, and today we're going to be following the story Fancy Bread by Anita, Nahta, Amin. And as we explore this story, you might come across words that you don't know. Well, that's okay, we're going to use the context clues that it gives us to try to figure out what it might mean. And with that, let's start our story. So, Anil froze when he saw the flyer at school. Culinary Academies of America presents Junior Cooking Camp. He had to go, but he needed money to get there. So, the next morning on Saturday, Anil got to work. He sifted, stirred, rolled, cut, and baked. He iced, glazed, powdered, and sprinkled. He stacked the cookies he made in cellophane bags. Then he tied a ribbon around each bag with a tag that read Anil's Gourmet Cookies. And before we move on, as you can see, I did highlight a couple of words here. So take a moment and just think about what these might mean. So we have culinary, cellophane, and gourmet. You might have heard these words before. Culinary is just a type of word to describe cooking. Cellophane bags is also a type of baking bag that you store baked goods at. And then gourmet is just like fancy food pretty much. Hence why the story is called Fancy Bread. Kind of gives us a clue to it. Alright, and let's continue here. Now, Anil said, pulling off his flour-dusted apron, I'll make my dreams come true. He knocked door to door trying to sell the cookies. I need money for cooking camp, he told each neighbor. I want to be a chef. Just bought some cookies, one neighbor said. On a diet, the next one said. No money, the third attempted. Let's try Purry's, his grandma Nanima suggested after Anil came home with a lot of good luck wishes but no money. They drove to Purry's Indian grocery store. Now let's take a pause right there. As you can see, I highlighted this part of the sentence right here. A lot of good luck wishes, but no money. When you say that out loud, what do you think they mean by this statement? Especially with what's been going on while Anil's trying to sell his cookies. And while you're thinking about what that may mean, also think about what clues were given so you could support your answer. Alright, I hope you guys gave yourself enough time to figure out what that meant. So, a lot of good luck wishes, but no money. And if you look past the couple of statements, a lot of people are giving him short answers on why they can't buy his cookies. Some just bought cookies, one's on a diet, and the other says no money. But Anil's doing this for his own good because he wants to get into the culinary camp, like you mentioned in the first passage to this story. So, a lot of good luck, which he has, but no money's going on yet. And with that, let's continue. Cookies, Mr. Purry waved his hand dismissively. No sweets, too many sweets. He pointed towards some shelves stacked with desserts from India. But these are canned, Namima argued. These are fresh. And what is that you're selling? She motioned toward the freezers. Frozen Indian meals? How long does it take to make a fresh paratha, flatbread, and aloo, potato? Mr. Purry shrugged. Nowadays, too long. Nanima tutted. People are moving too fast these days. Fast this, fast that. People forget how to cook, I tell ya. She and Anil left. Looks like we have another word highlighted here. Tutted. Well, by what's going on with the story, take a moment and think of what that word might mean, given the clues that we already have. Give yourself some time. It's just us trying to figure out what it means. So if you have the wrong answer at first, that's all right. That's why we're reading this story, so we could add more to our vocabulary list. Well, tutted is a descriptive term to describe how someone's feeling. So it could have said Nanima said, but instead it said Nanima tutted, explaining on how she is saying this statement out loud. So people are moving too fast these days. Fast this, fast that. And before, Mr. Purry is describing on why he won't buy the cookies from Anil. And with this, we could probably say tutted means that she's either aggravated or she just doesn't agree with what Mr. Purry is telling her. So, when we think about how the story is going on her head, I can imagine Nanima with a pretty disapproval look on her face and pretty upset that this man will not buy the cookies. And also with that, we could tell earlier in the story that Nanima is pretty upset because she's arguing with the man on why he's keeping canned and frozen Indian foods when it's just as easy to make them, if not better. And lastly, I just want to point out two words here that I noticed. Paratha and aloo is just two types of Indian foods. So this is how we describe a flatbread, and that's what they call it in the Indian culture. And that aloo Potato is like a type of curry. I actually tried both of these options before. They're really good, especially if you like spicy food. Once home, Anil put the cookies on the kitchen table. Guess I'm not going to camp. Naima patted Anil's shoulder. Not all chefs go camping, huh? Some cook dinner at home. In a bowl, she mixed flour, oil, water, and spices. She split the paratha dough with Anil. Sighing, Anil broke a bit off, rolled it into a ball, and flattened it with the palm of his hand. As he rolled it out, he thought about how traditional paratha shapes were so boring. Circles, triangles, nothing fun. His gaze strayed to some nearby cookie cutters. All that work he put into making those cookies. Rolling, cutting. He blinked. Cookie cutters cut dough. Why couldn't he use them on paratha dough? Anil broke into a huge grin. As he worked, he suddenly felt Naima beside him. Frowning, Naima picked up his parathas one by one. A car? A cat? A flower? What kind of parathas are these? After some silence, she said, I should like eating the cat. Maybe other people will like them too, Anil said. I should sell them. Even make seasonal parathas. Bells for winters, shamrocks for spring. Fancy parathas, Naima mused. Maybe the Indian store will buy some, Anil hoped. Naima called Puri. Puri, I have a big moneymaker for you. My grandson's parathas. They're fast but fresh and fancy, she paused. You'll see them. Good. They cooked the parathas and brought them to Puri. Puri frowned. Too small, these parathas. People like big parathas, so you have more to scoop vegetable with. Parathas were like edible spoons, you see. Puri demonstrated by tearing off a piece of paratha. He pretended to scoop up some potato, then he put the paratha piece and pretended potato into his mouth. But these are more fun for kids, Anil said. Puri blinked. Parathas for kids? Puri slowly nodded his head. Something new and delicious. We'll try them. A few days later, Puri called Anil. Then when Anil hung up, Naima asked, well, what did Puri want? Anil grinned before hurrying to the kitchen. 50 parathas each week. Kids love them. Camp, here I come. And with that, it looks like Anil's dreams came true. Not only does he have a lot of good luck, but now he has money and he could go to his cooking camp that he dreamed about. And I hope with that story to a close, you guys learned something new about the Indian culture and the type of foods that they offer. I really suggest giving it a try. It's full of new spices that you normally don't see every day, but it's really tasty at the same time too. And before we move on, without looking back into this video, can you say 2 of the Indian foods that they mentioned out loud and what they are? And with that, I hope you guys gave yourself enough time to think about that. Well, they mentioned the paratha and the aloo. And with those words, what do they represent in foods that you commonly eat today? Well, paratha was bread and aloo was potato. It was just different ways to say those different types of foods. And with that, let's end the video today by doing a couple of these questions regarding some of the vocab that we saw here in this story. Now, some of it we went over together, while others you might have already known or was also mentioned in the story. And before we start, pause the video here now, and I would like you to take out a sheet of paper and then just copy down the questions that we have here. So we're just going to do, let's do 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then you could do the rest at home. And it's nice because the story gives us little hints to what this word might mean. So, the first hint is customary to a certain culture or group. Second one is without showing interest, rejecting an idea. Third is able to be eaten. And then fourth is exceptional quality of food. Well, let's start with an easy one first. Let's look at number 3. Able to be eaten. Well, by looking at it, we have a D and I and ending E. If you're able to eat something that is fine to eat and nothing like a banana peel that you can't eat, then it is, think about it, I'll put a little letter in front to help you out. So E-D-I-E. What possibly can we put in these last 2 slots to make it a word that makes it to be able to be eaten? And this might be a new word for you, but it's actually going to be edible. So when you eat at lunch, you have something edible to eat. Or when your food expires, that's not edible, like your milk going bad. Sorry about that. I just realized number 1 was a little cut off there. But this one is customary to a certain culture or group. Well, think about it. What do you guys do at home that normally is just within your family and that you do every year? Maybe at Christmas time you have a certain thing that you guys always do. Maybe it's singing carols or certain types of foods. And it starts with a T and ends with an L. Well, this one's a little long one, but when you do things that is just similar to your family or maybe to your culture, it is traditional. And let's think about how to spell that. Tra, so T-R, a di, channel. Kind of a long word to spell, but when you think about how to say it out loud, or how to pronounce it out loud, and then the letters associated with it, you could get the correct spelling. All right, and let's look at number 2 here. So it starts with a D, and we don't have our ending, but the hint is without showing interest or rejecting an idea. Well, remember when we were talking about tutted, it meant some kind of, you don't agree with that statement. So if you don't agree with it and you don't care for it, what are you doing? Maybe you're being dismissive. So, dis. Let's see if it fits. Miss. We're kind of close, but it looks like it has an ending caught onto this. So dismissively. Dismissively. And let's spell that out loud real quick because it's a little hard to read my handwriting. So it's D-I-S-M-I-S-S-I-V-E-L-Y. Then let's move on to 4. Our last one here for today. So it's exceptionally quality of food. And I remember us talking about that earlier in the story too. So you might already know what this is. And again, I'll give you a little bit of a hint. I'll add the first slot of letter here. So we have G-O-U. So gourmet. Yep, it fits, and that is correct. And with those words, since these are a little bit longer, just to add to your vocabulary and the next time that you see it in a different book or story, just try writing these by yourself, maybe just once or twice a day until you get the hang of it when asked. And then with that, I will show you the picture to number 5, 6, and 7, and 8. And then just write those down and then try your best to figure out what the words might be. And to see if you're right, I'll attach a link to the description with the answer key so you could see what 5, 6, 7, and 8 are. And with that little activity done, I just want to leave you guys thinking about something. So, this story was called Fancy Bread. And the fancy bread that was being made was Anil's parathas, which are customary to his Indian culture. Now, what is something in your household that you make that you normally don't see every day or you might find fancy and different? Well, for me, I'm Italian, so my family makes these little biscuits that are in the shape of a donut that are normally hard, kind of like stale bread, but they're really good. They normally use it to dip it into coffee, and that's what I would call my fancy bread. And your fancy bread could just be chocolate chip cookies, or it could be fruit cake, whatever. Just think about that and what makes you fancy. But with that, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. See you later. Bye.